The emergency alarm shrieked through the cargo bay of the Verath's claw, and Captain Wilnox felt all three of his stomachs drop at once. He knew that tone. It was reserved for catastrophic security breaches, hull fractures, or, Emperor forbid, diplomatic disasters that could ignite interstellar war. What he did not expect to find was his second officer, Garvok, standing in the loading dock holding a small, pale creature wrapped in colorful fabric, one that was producing the most piercing sound Wilnox had ever heard. "Garvok," he said slowly, his mandibles clicking in the particular rhythm that meant someone was dangerously close to being spaced. "Please tell me that is not what I think it is." Garvok's eye stalks drooped. "Well, Captain, that depends entirely on what you think it is." Wilnox stared. "Is that a human infant?" As if sensing the weight of the moment, the creature increased its volume by at least 40 decibels. Wilnox had survived plasma firefights quieter than this. "In my defense," Garvok began, never a promising phrase, "I thought it was a Bulvation grub. They were selling it at the station market. Said it was exotic livestock. How was I supposed to know humans look like that when they're small?" Wilnox regarded him the way one might watch someone attempt to drink molten metal. "You purchased a living creature from a black market vendor, failed to scan it, and brought it onto my ship." "The price was very reasonable," Garvok offered weakly. The infant, apparently offended by being discussed like cargo, launched into what Wilnox could only describe as a tactical screaming campaign. Its tiny face turned a violent shade of red, which, based on his limited knowledge of human biology, meant it was either extremely angry or about to expire. Possibly both. "Do you have any idea," Wilnox hissed, claws trembling as he activated his communicator, "what humans do when you take their offspring? They declared war on the Krell Dominion for 300 cycles because one colonist was kidnapped. The Krell had a fleet of 10,000 ships. Do you know how many they have now?" Garvok swallowed. "How many?" 12. The humans turned everything else into scrap and decorative explosions. The cargo bay doors slid open, and Mira, the ship's medical officer, rushed in with her scanner already humming. She took one look at the screaming bundle in Garvok's arms, and her skin cycled through colors Wilnox was fairly certain her species was not designed to display. "Oh no. No, she muttered as the scanner confirmed their worst fear. "Human. Female. Approximately 8 months old. Healthy. Terrified. And very likely the cause of our extinction. Can we just put it back?" Garvok asked desperately. Wilnox would have laughed if he weren't mentally drafting his final will. "Where exactly do you suggest we put back a human child? Do you even remember where you bought her?" "Non-station 47. Dock 9. Or 19. A low sound escaped Wilnox's throat, half growl, half despair. "You don't even remember the dock. Do you understand what you've done? Humans possess a terrifying biological imperative called parental instinct. When their young are threatened, they don't negotiate. They don't bargain. They turn everything within 5 parsecs into debris." The child, clearly committed to escalating the crisis, cried even harder. Mira gently removed the infant from Garvok's incompetent grasp, rocking her with surprising tenderness. It did absolutely nothing to reduce the volume. "We need to contact human authorities immediately," Mira said. "Every second we delay makes this worse." "Worse?" Wilnox demanded. "How could this possibly?" The communications array lit up with an incoming transmission. The identifier froze his blood. "Terran Defense Coalition, Priority Alpha." "It got worse," Garvok whispered. Wilnox accepted the transmission with a shaking claw. A hologram flickered to life, revealing a human woman. Her expression was perfectly composed, the unsettling politeness humans adopted just before opening fire. "This is Commander Patricia Wells of the TDC battlecruiser Resolve," she said calmly, in a tone that promised future devastation. "We have reason to believe you may have accidentally acquired human property from Station 47. We would like to discuss the immediate return of said property. Do you copy?" Accidentally acquired. That was the kind of diplomatic phrasing humans used right before boarding your vessel and reducing it to drifting fragments. "Commander Wells," Wilnox began, striving for steadiness and failing, "there has been a terrible misunderstanding. My officer, who will be thoroughly disciplined, purchased what he believed to be Bulvation livestock from a market vendor." "Bulvation livestock," Commander Wells repeated, one eyebrow rising in a way Wilnox interpreted as the human equivalent of arming weapons. Are you telling me one of your crew members bought a human baby because he thought it was a grub? When she said it that way, it sounded even worse. The vendor described it as exotic, Garvok offered from behind him. Wilnox considered stunning him. Commander Wells pinched the bridge of her nose, a gesture Wilnox had learned meant humans were reconsidering whether violence was optional. All right, she said at last. Here's what's going to happen. You are going to transmit your coordinates. We are going to arrive at your location. You're going to hand over the child completely unharmed, Commander Wells continued. And then we're going to have a very long conversation about how this happened. The child is perfectly safe, Mira called, lifting the still wailing infant toward the holocom. She's healthy, just frightened. We haven't harmed her. Commander Wells' expression changed instantly. For half a second, her eyes softened as she looked at the crying baby. Then they hardened into something that reminded Wilnox of compressed neutronium. You have 12 hours to reach waypoint Delta 7, she said quietly. The calmness in her voice was far more frightening than anger. The resolve will meet you there. If you are even 5 minutes late, if that child has so much as a scratch, if her diaper, yes Captain, I said diaper, isn't fresh when we receive her, I will personally ensure your ship becomes a case study in creative disassembly. Am I clear? Perfectly clear, Commander, Wilnox replied quickly. We'll arrive early. With a fresh diaper. And perhaps some toys. Do human infants like toys? 12 hours, Captain. The transmission ended. Silence filled the cargo bay, except for the baby's relentless crying. Wilnox slowly turned toward Garvok, who at least had the decency to look miserable. From the doorway, Chief Engineer Crix spoke up. He had apparently witnessed the entire catastrophe. So, he said carefully, who wants to explain to the crew why we are now being hunted by the Terran Defense Coalition? Garvok bought a human baby, Wilnox answered flatly. Crix blinked. Blinked again. Then began laughing, the strained, hysterical kind that meant his mind had stopped trying to make sense of reality. We're going to die, he gasped between laughs. We're going to die because Garvok can't tell the difference between a grub and a human child. I panicked. Garvok protested. It was making noises. How was I supposed to know which species makes which sounds? Mira was still holding the infant, who had begun to calm slightly, though her face remained red and blotchy. She needs to be fed, Mira said firmly. Human infants require nourishment every few hours. Fed what? Wilnox demanded. We don't carry human food. They drink milk, Mira replied, already scanning information on her datapad. More specifically, formula if they're not nursing. We need to contact nearby stations and locate proper supplies. Wilnox closed his eyes briefly. Yesterday, his greatest concern had been a faulty navigation array. Today, he was organizing emergency provisions for a kidnapped human baby while a heavily armed Terran battlecruiser closed in on his position. Crix, set course for waypoint Delta 7 at maximum safe speed, he ordered. Mira, secure formula, diapers, whatever humans require. Garvok, you will spend the next 12 hours learning everything there is to know about human childcare. Because if anything happens to that infant, I will personally deliver you to the humans in convenient portions. Yes, Captain, Garvok muttered. At that moment, the baby wrapped her tiny hand around Mira's finger. Despite everything, the threat, the deadline, the impending doom, Mira smiled. She's actually rather adorable, she said softly. She is a ticking time bomb wrapped in fabric, Wilnox corrected. But yes, objectively, for a species that evolved on a death world, she is disturbingly cute. Which makes this infinitely worse. By hour 3 of the 12-hour deadline, Wilnox was questioning every decision that had led him to command a cargo freighter staffed by what might be the least competent crew in known space. The good news, they had secured human infant formula from a mixed-species supply depot. The bad news, no one aboard knew how to use it. You just put it in her mouth, right? Garvok asked, holding the bottle as if it might detonate. If you accidentally drown a human child because you're incapable of following simple instructions, Wilnox snapped, the humans won't need to destroy us. The universe will do it out of spite. Mira pulled up a human infant care tutorial, and the entire bridge crew gathered around it as though studying a battle strategy, which, given their circumstances, it essentially was. You must hold her at an angle, Mira explained, carefully positioning the baby. Support her head. Humans are born with underdeveloped neck muscles due to their oversized brains. They can't even hold up their own heads. Crix asked in disbelief. And yet they conquered half the known galaxy, Wilnox muttered. Through relentless persistence and catastrophic overreaction. Now be quiet. The baby accepted the bottle and began drinking with surprising enthusiasm. A collective sigh swept across the bridge. Status report, Wilnox said, attempting to reclaim command authority. We're making excellent time to Delta 7, Crix replied. Current ETA, 10 hours, 40 minutes. Well within the deadline. No signs of pursuit, the tactical officer added carefully. Though human stealth capabilities are advanced. They could be right behind us, and we wouldn't know until they chose to be seen. Comforting. Captain, Communications Officer Plex interrupted nervously, we're receiving another transmission. From the Terrans? No, sir. Station 47 Security. Of course. Wilnox accepted the call. A hologram flickered to life, revealing a weary Zenthari officer whose expression suggested he had endured a truly terrible day. Captain Wilnox of the Verath's Claw, the officer asked tiredly. That would be me, Wilnox replied. Let me guess. You're calling about the human infant. The Zenthari officer's antennae drooped. You have no idea how much paperwork this has created. We've identified the vendor who sold you the child. He kidnapped her from a human merchant vessel that docked here 2 days ago. The parents are currently tearing through my station demanding answers, and making threats that likely violate at least 6 interstellar treaties. Wilnox felt all 3 stomachs tighten. The parents are alive, the officer continued. Very much so. And extremely angry. The mother is a former human marine. The father is an engineer who has provided us with disturbingly detailed descriptions of what he intends to do to our life support systems if we fail to recover his daughter. Fantastic. Perfect. We're en route to waypoint Delta 7, Wilnox said carefully. We're meeting Commander Wells to return the child. Yes, we're aware. Commander Wells was thorough. I'm forwarding you the parents' contact information. I strongly suggest you speak with them before the transfer. It may prevent them from doing something regrettable upon arrival. The transmission ended. Wilnox stared at the contact file as if it might detonate. You're going to call them, right? Mira asked, gently burping the baby with a skill she had somehow mastered in 3 hours. You want me, Wilnox repeated slowly, to contact 2 heavily armed, highly trained, deeply furious human parents and inform them that we are the incompetent crew currently in possession of their stolen child? Does that sound wise to you? Better than surprising them, Mira said softly. She had a point. A deeply unsettling point. Wilnox activated the channel with trembling claws. The connection established in 3 seconds. The humans had clearly been waiting. 2 faces appeared in the hologram. The woman had short dark hair and intense green eyes filled with controlled fury. The man beside her gripped his console so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Fear and exhaustion lined his face. You have my daughter, the woman said. Not a question. A fact. Yes, ma'am, Wilnox answered immediately, deciding that military courtesy was his safest option. This was a terrible mistake. My officer purchased her from a black market vendor who falsely claimed she was Bulvatian livestock. The father let out a sound caught between a laugh and a sob. Someone sold our baby as livestock. Your officer is either blind or catastrophically stupid, the mother said, her voice sharp enough to slice hull plating. Both, Wilnox admitted. He is being disciplined extensively. Possibly permanently. The father leaned forward. Is she okay? Is Emma hurt? Is she eating? Is she scared? Emma. The child had a name. Mira, Wilnox said quietly. Show them. The medical officer turned the holocom toward the baby, who had finished her bottle and was now cooing softly while gripping Mira's finger. The change in the parents' expressions was immediate. The mother's fury cracked, tears streaming down her face. The father covered his mouth, his shoulders shaking. She's safe, Mira said gently. She's healthy. We've been feeding her, keeping her clean, monitoring her constantly. I promise you, we haven't harmed her. We're taking very good care of her until we can return her. You're the ship's medical officer? The mother asked, her voice rough. Yes, ma'am. My name is Mira. I've been tracking her vital signs continuously. She's perfectly healthy, just frightened and missing her parents. The father was openly crying now. We docked at Station 47 for a routine cargo pickup. I turned my back for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Someone smashed through our viewport and took her from her crib. We've been searching for her for 2 days, the mother added, wiping her eyes. When we learned a cargo ship had her, I wanted to commandeer a fighter and retrieve her myself. Commander Wells convinced us diplomacy was better. The father's voice hardened. But if anything had happened to Emma, there wouldn't have been enough left of your ship to recycle. Completely understandable, Wilnox said quickly. If it offers any comfort, we are absolutely terrified and have treated this situation with the seriousness it deserves. For the first time, the mother's expression softened slightly. Good, she said. You should be. Do you have children, Captain? 3 offspring, Wilnox admitted. Which is why I understand exactly how you feel. I have been in a state of continuous panic for the last 3 hours. Then you understand why we need her back, the father said quietly. She's everything to us. We will meet Commander Wells at waypoint Delta 7 in 9 hours and 53 minutes, Wilnox said, checking the chronometer. We will arrive early. Emma will be clean, fed, and safe. You have my word, as a father. The mother studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, Captain. We'll be aboard the Resolve when you arrive. And, thank you for taking care of her. It is the very least we could do, Wilnox replied, after my officer accidentally kidnapped her. The transmission ended. Wilnox collapsed into his command chair with a long, exhausted groan. I'm too old for this, Wilnox muttered, slumping in his chair. After this mission, I'm retiring. I'm going back to my home world to grow fungus in peace for the rest of my life. Sir, Mira announced calmly, the baby needs another diaper change. Garvok. Wilnox roared. Get in here and learn how to change a human diaper. Consider it part of your punishment. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of feeding times, diaper changes, and Emma discovering that she thoroughly enjoyed grabbing Tactical Officer Ven's head tentacles. To his credit, Ven endured it with remarkable patience. She's surprisingly strong for something so small, Ven observed as Emma tugged his tentacle with delighted squeals. Human grip strength is impressive. It's evolutionary, Mira explained, gently bouncing Emma. Human infants had to cling to their parents, while the adults performed survival tasks. They're born with a powerful grasp reflex. They're designed not to let go. That explains a great deal about human military strategy, Crix muttered from navigation. Hour 11 arrived. The Verath's claw dropped out of faster-than-light travel at waypoint Delta 7. The Terran Defense Coalition battlecruiser Resolve was already waiting. It was enormous. That ship could glass a planet, Ven whispered as his sensors displayed the cruiser's full weapons array. Let's avoid giving them a reason to demonstrate, Wilnox replied. Commander Wells' voice came through the comm system. Captain Wilnox. You're early. We appreciate punctuality. Prepare for transport. We're dispatching a shuttle to retrieve Emma and escort your vessel to the designated handoff position. Understood, Commander. We'll have her ready. The shuttle docked with flawless military precision. Commander Wells herself stepped aboard, accompanied by a security detail. She carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who had spent decades in command. But when she saw Emma in Mira's arms, her expression softened completely. Hello, sweetheart, Wells said gently. Emma reached toward her with a cheerful gurgle. Let's get you back to your mommy and daddy. She was fed within the last hour, Mira reported carefully as she transferred Emma. Clean diaper. No injuries. Vital signs normal. You took good care of her, Wells said, assessing Emma with a trained eye. We're not monsters, Wilnox replied quietly. Just fools who made a terrible mistake. Wells allowed herself a small smile. The parents are waiting in our medical bay. They've been cleared by our physicians, but emotionally, they're struggling. They need to see her. We understand, Wilnox said. Commander, what happens to us? Wells considered him for a moment. You'll provide a full statement detailing how you acquired Emma and the identity of the vendor. We'll use that information to prosecute the kidnapper. As for your crew, there will be a report filed with the coalition. However, you responded quickly, returned her unharmed, and cooperated fully. That will be noted. Thank you, Commander. Don't thank me yet, she said dryly. You're still being fined for failing to properly scan purchased cargo. And the officer who bought a human baby believing it was a grub will undergo mandatory species identification training. Fair, Wilnox agreed. More than fair. Wells turned toward the airlock with Emma in her arms, then paused. For what it's worth, Captain, you did the right thing. Not every species would have cared for a child that wasn't their own. As the shuttle departed, Wilnox felt a crushing weight lift from his shoulders. Sir, Plex announced, we're receiving a message from the parents. Audio only. Play it. A woman's voice filled the bridge, thick with tears, but overflowing with relief. Thank you. Thank you for bringing our baby home. Wilnox smiled despite himself. You're welcome, he murmured. Then he straightened. All right, everyone. Let's leave before I collapse from stress. Setting course for home, Crix confirmed. And sir, perhaps we implement a new regulation about scanning cargo before purchasing it. Already done, Wilnox said. New standing order, Garvok is never allowed to shop unsupervised again. From engineering, Garvok's voice echoed over the intercom. That's fair. Moments later, the Verath's claw jumped back into faster-than-light travel. Wilnox leaned back and exhaled slowly. Humans were terrifying when you threatened their children. But they were also capable of remarkable restraint when those children were returned safely. He would still never, under any circumstances, allow Garvok to go shopping alone again. Some lessons only need to be learned once. The end.